So let's go over some Money in the Bank statistics heading into July 1st and Money in the Bank over there in London. Like I said, this is the 14th pay-per-view that's entitled Money in the Bank. There have been a total of 18 men's Money in the Bank matches. And 5 women's, 23 total. The success rate on the WWE Championship is 81.8%. On the World Heavyweight, it's 87.5%. On the SmackDown Women's Championships and Raw's Women's Championships, they're batting 1,000 on both of those. The Universal Championship is 50-50, and our one cash in on the U.S. title, Austin Theory, 0-1, so 0% there. Still the longest reigning Money in the Bank holder after all of this time in the men's world. And like I said, there have been 23 men to hold the Money in the Bank briefcase. So there's been 18 matches, 23 men in total, because they've fought for the championship nonsense. There have been 23 men who have held the Money in the Bank briefcase for the men. Still the longest reigning one. It's Edge. He had the longest reign of holding that Money in the Bank briefcase. His time holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, I can pick it up right here if I was just looking at it 2 seconds ago, but it is still the longest for the men. It's 280 days he held the title before he cashed it in on John Cena in 2006.
Like 9 months. So it's like 9 months.
Yeah, I mean, he picked it up at WrestleMania, cashed it in January. The longest women's is actually the first ever woman to win it, and she would have had it longer, but they kind of made her re-win it. And that is Carmella. She won the Money in the Bank in 2017 at the inaugural women's match. 2 days later, she had to re-win it because of the controversy with James Ellsworth. But then when she re-won it, she held it for 287 days, which is the longest anyone has ever held the Money in the Bank briefcase, which is kind of funny because obviously since then, when it comes to women holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, 3 times out of the 5, they've cashed in on the pay-per-view itself. Nikki ASH cashed in, I think, the night after in 2000. Yes. So the second winner, Alexa Bliss, cashed in at Money in the Bank, the same pay-per-view. The third winner, Bayley, cashed in later that night in Hartford in 2019 at the pay-per-view. Nikki ASH, who won it on July 18th, 2021, cashed it in on July 19th, 2021 on Monday Night Raw. And then last year, Liv Morgan cashed it in later in the night on Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank. So Carmella's the only one that took it and kept it for more than a weekend. And then she kept it for 287 days. On our podcast proper, I kind of hinted at something to do with John Cena, and John Cena is the only person to unsuccessfully cash in Money in the Bank. What I mean by that is he cashed it in on the July 23rd, 2012 episode of Monday Night Raw, the first episode of Monday Night Raw, might I add, that went 3 hours and stayed that way. It was the beginning of what we now know as 3 Hour Raw, which has been going on for just shy of 11 years. But on that episode, Raw 1000, which was the first 3 Hour Raw to be annual, he cashed it in, but won via disqualification against CM Punk, which means he did not successfully add the championship to his long, illustrious reigns that he currently has. So he cashed it in, he won the match, but did not win the title. And one other anomaly is Braun Strowman, who cashed it in, who announced he was going to cash it in at Hell in a Cell 2018, inside Hell in a Cell with Roman Reigns. Mick Foley was the special guest referee in that. Brock Lesnar interfered, knocking both Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman out. The match was called a no contest. So, losing the briefcase and then not even getting the victory there, but everything else has been decisive. The most recent Money in the Bank cash-in, I was there when it comes to the men's side, and it was unsuccessful. It was last November 7th, Austin Theory, the first person to ever cash it in on the U.S. title, and he was unsuccessful doing it, but we all know, obviously, a few weeks later, he won the U.S. title against Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley at Survivor Series.
Just don't do Baron Corbin. Just don't do Baron Corbin. You don't want to do that.
Well, Baron Corbin's probably, like we said, not going to be there due to his involvement. He, before Austin Theory, was the last unsuccessful cash-in, as he was defeated by Jinder Mahal trying to cash it in back in 2017 after he had won Money in the Bank. Some other unsuccessful cash-ins, Damian Sandow was actually number 14 to hold Money in the Bank and was the first man to hold Money in the Bank, cash it in, and to actually lose the match and be unsuccessful. So it took till the 14th Money in the Bank briefcase holder to cash it in and essentially get defeated, which he did by John Cena. I said Baron Corbin then did it about 4 attempts later. And then Austin Theory is the most recent one to be unsuccessful. Obviously, the women have all been successful in cashing in their Money in the Bank briefcases. And don't forget, we had people like Otis who won Money in the Bank and then lost the contract itself to someone like The Miz. And if we ever needed any of a reason, because even some stuff still surprises me to this day to learn about, but if we ever needed a reason for the pandemic and the nonsense that went on, to never rewatch that and to think how awful that is from every perspective, Asuka's reign as champion is 25 days. But here's the thing. WWE only recognizes 1 day because I was unaware of this. I know that they taped things ahead of time during the pandemic. I was not aware, though, that they taped the Money in the Bank match that we saw at corporate headquarters the middle of April, only about a week after WrestleMania. They taped that match.
I remember that. I remember the timeline.
It didn't air until May 10th. 2020, so almost a month later. So they not just taped it. So I understand they taped some things, which, again, a pay-per-view, I thought most of that stuff was live. I understand that that corporate match was probably not live. I was unaware until today. It was taped 25 days in advance.
Yeah, I remember. I feel like we talked about that. I felt like we remember. I remember.
I mean, maybe we did. I try to block it all out of my head.
True.
I mean, just looking back on it, 25 days in advance. I mean, how awful. I mean, because then you're taping Monday Night Raws. I mean, that just gets you out of sync with the whole art form of wrestling in general. When you're taping Monday Night Raws after the fact, where you have to then pretend that you didn't already have these matches. I mean, that's got to be tough.
Let's think of it this way. Thankfully, nobody was injured that was in that match that was taped 25 days, prior to airing, because then the whole sequence would have been all screwed up if you think about it.
I mean, it ended up being just given the championship the night after Money in the Bank. She ended up getting the championship because Becky Lynch announced that she was going to take a hiatus due to pregnancy and said that the championship belt was in the briefcase. So you're the new champion, which is probably also like a last minute thing. So I don't know, obviously, if Becky Lynch knew she was pregnant in the middle of April, but they played that nonsense on us. And then obviously remember Otis winning. He lost his contract to The Miz at Hell in a Cell later that year. So he held it from May until October before he lost the briefcase. But Money in the Bank, like I said, it's similar to like the Royal Rumble. It's got that kind of cachet. It's got that intrigue. It's got that interest. It's not like the Royal Rumble with as many competitors. But quickly, I will ask your question. What do you take, though, on the ability to cash in on any championship? I posed this question out there, and more people said on Twitter that they like that you can cash in any championship. But me personally, I'll put my opinion out there. I don't like that fact because when you win the Royal Rumble, what surprises me, what makes it such a surprise that you won the Royal Rumble and a big deal is because I know what match they're putting you in. They are putting you in the main event somewhat at WrestleMania. So if you told me that that if you won the Royal Rumble, you can go after any title you want, then we're going to start seeing more Miz Royal Rumble winners. We're going to start seeing more Damian Sandow. We're going to start seeing more Baron Corbin Royal Rumble winners, more Austin Theory Royal Rumble, because who knows? Because they're going to go for the IC title at WrestleMania or something like that.
You just answered that for me. You just answered my question. You answered my question because here's the thing, like. For me, I'm with the majority of the audience where I like the fact that you can cash in on any title because you made a great point because you could have had the Damian Mizdows of the world winning the Royal Rumble because Royal Rumbles are very predictable. Like there's like 5 or 6 guys each year that are going to win. that would make it even more, more chaotic, I guess, because then you wouldn't have to, you would have to take into consideration all 30. So for me, I'm okay in that scenario if you think about it, because there's more, what can really happen? The predictability is out the window. And for me, I like to be surprised. And I know it's tough in the world we live in with social media. Everybody's tipping hands and things like that. Like, I love a good surprise. So if you leave that door open where you can take whatever belt you choose, like, just like Austin Theory just did with the United States title, I'm okay with it, because then you're not expecting it, because
so what you're saying is that if Butch wins the Money in the Bank 2023, you're all of a sudden you're going to go, that's a surprise, because I wasn't expecting Butch, because I'm not expecting Butch to win the world title. But now Butch wins, all of a sudden you're going, oh, he's probably going to go after Gunther.
Which, okay, who doesn't want to see that match?
Yeah. I mean, I would, it does put people like Santos Escobar on the table to win. Obviously, if this is for the world title, I don't think they're pushing him to the top.
Here's my point.
I could see him taking on Austin Theory.
But here's my point, though. It's because how many times have we've gone through these match cards and we are like, okay, they have no shot of winning. In this case, you're not taking anybody out of the equation. You're, like you just mentioned, Santos Escobar's got a shot now. I just like the fact where you're not like process of elimination. Well, there's six competitors in the match. Well, these 4 definitely are not going to win, so it's between these 2. Now you're throwing that out the window. So then you have all 6 competitors, for example. Anyone in that match has a shot to win the Money in the Bank, and then cash in on whoever the hell they want. Like, that to me, as a wrestling fan, and again, as somebody who likes surprises, who the hell wouldn't want that? So I have to disagree with you on that. I have to agree with our.
Maybe you converted me here. So you know what? You might have converted me, because we always talk about like not liking predictability. So you're right. Maybe I take that as well, and I think that does add an interesting element into the Money in the Bank. It doesn't add it for the women's, because there's only the world titles for women's.
Did my take on things sway you? So are you on my side now?
I like things having the ability to be more unpredictable. So yeah, like I said, maybe you did sway me a little bit there, and puts everybody on the table. I still, I feel like, though, that might get old a little bit, similar to like the early Royal Rumbles where, Hacksaw Jim Duggan won the early Royal Rumble because it didn't. But he won it because it didn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Or like Braun Strowman won the greatest Royal Rumble because it didn't mean anything. So that's just one aspect, I guess, still to look at. If we start getting a lot of Santos Escobars winning and then just going after the U.S. belt in the future, it kind of, and like I said, I thought it added intrigue before I knew that to like people like Austin Theory, because, he essentially has that cash in on a main event. But in all theory, what Seth Rollins had that cash in at WrestleMania to, come in and interrupt the main event. It might dull it a little bit if we know the Money in the Bank holder could truly be Otis and truly have Otis cash in and be successful, but never come anywhere near Roman Reigns.
No, I agree with that part of it. My thing is, if there's a good balance and you don't oversaturate the mid-card championships too much, like, yeah, you don't want every Money in the Bank for the next 5 years to be Intercontinental or United States champion. I get that. So, but if you throw in a few wild cards where every so often, maybe every couple years, whoever wins it says, you know what, I'm going to get the IC title or I'm going to get the United States title. I think just mixing it up where it's not the status quo, I think is really good for the business. And again, it keeps that intrigue factor going, and for me as a fan of the business, as long as I have, it's more entertaining for me.
Well, after Money in the Bank, we'll see who wins, and then we'll try to see if they still have the briefcases come our next recording. We'll see. We'll try to predict which belts, men's wise at least, they'll be going after.